So the title on the thumbnail said, does a woodworker need a compressor? And you've probably guessed my answer already. But what we're going to be doing in this video is looking at why this particular model, or why did I choose this particular model, what my criteria was for its purchase, what tools I've bought and intend to buy for it, how those tools compare against their electronic counterparts, and the overall costs involved in setting up this for the workshop. My name is Nick and this is Mokuzai Design. So my criteria for buying this particular compressor was very simple, really. Like most woodworkers, I wanted to be able to use some tools like pin nailers and brad nailers, air blowers. But what was most important to me when it came to the capacity, the size of the tank, was the fact that I wanted to do finishing and paint spraying. Now I do a lot of that. I do it with whether I'm finishing kitchen cabinets, so I might be painting them, but I might be finishing a fine bit of furniture. And I just genuinely think that spray painting is so much better than its alternative of using a roller or a brush. So that was my very simple criteria. But what was confusing was the fact that there was PSI and there was bar and there was CFM, and all these figures were being thrown at me and I didn't really understand what each of those meant. So I did what all good workers should do, and I turned to YouTube. Now there was a particular video that I watched, and it's how I ended up with this machine, in all fairness. It was a video by Kieth Brown, a Rag and Bone Brown, and he did a tremendous video on comparing different compressors. I'll put a link to that in the description. And he came up with two possible answers. He went one particular route, I've gone the other, and the only reason I've gone the other route is because of two little things. But one, I didn't want to be a copycat, and two, there was a little bit more research that I did. So the second bit of research I did was on a smaller tank than this, and that was by Peter Millard, and I'll put a link to that video as well in the description. Now the third piece I did was, there's one of the guys here who's got this exact machine, and I went and had a play with it and saw its capabilities, and I was happy to get my wallet out and actually purchase this machine. So let's have a little look at the tools I'm going to be using with this. So the first tool is the simplest of the lot, and I don't think there's an electronic counterpart to it. If there is an alternative use, it's a matter of just going and that just is ineffective, really. I know it's all something we've all done, but the tool is this, and it cost £9.99 from Amazon. It's a little air gun, and it is absolutely superb. It comes with an extendable nozzle as well, so you can get into little tight spaces. Now the reason I would use this is simply because when I'm finishing, I want to make sure that everything is absolutely dust free. Yeah, it's quite handy for blowing off your work surface or whatever, but I wouldn't necessarily use it for cleaning up the workshop. All you're going to do is put dust up into the environment and you're going to be breathing it in. Now there are some safety rules, as with all tools. Because you're going to be putting debris into the air, make sure you've got eye protection. If this is going to kick in, then make sure that you've got ear protection and of course dust protection as well. But it is a superb little tool, and as I said, very, very cheap. So a superb little tool for just making sure that your project pieces are spotlessly clean before you start finishing. So the next tool is the good old brad nailer. This is an 18 gauge, there's no nails in that, don't worry. The reason I picked that over an electronic version would be the consistency of a pneumatic version, and also the cost. So as an example, this is an Axminster Professional. It's from the Axminster range. It's £69.99, £70. And if you compare that in cost to buying a battery version, for example, where you're going to be paying upwards of £500 plus batteries, you can soon run a bill, or if you go down that route. in particular, if you don't get one that's in the same battery family as the rest of your tools, you're going to be buying extra batteries, and they do need the larger batteries in order to operate properly, in my opinion. I just prefer these. The tool is lighter. Everything about it is for me, is better. Now, it's all very well, I'm in a workshop, so I can have the compressor. The compressor doesn't live here, obviously, but I can put this to good use because I'm not moving around. Now, if I were working up a loft, or if I were a roofer or something like that, then probably a battery or a gas version of this would be probably a better bet. But for a workshop environment, I don't think this can be beaten. Bosh. So, as with the nailer, the cheapest version obviously would be a little hammer. There's going to be a cheap version as well for finishing, and that would be a brush or a rag or whatever you're going to be using for finishing. Or you could go down the battery operated route or the corded route and buy something like a Wagner 4000. Now, to my mind, if you're going to buy a handheld XVLP paint sprayer, then you could say, well, Nick, you can get a paint sprayer for 50 quid. Yeah, you can, and it's pretty good for if you want to do your fence once a year in the garden. I guess that's a route you could take. But to my mind, it certainly doesn't give the finish that a compressed spray painting gun would give. Now, with this particular tank, I've gone down for a MIDI version, and this is the R160Q, and it was from Paint Sprayers Direct, I think it was called. But again, another recommendation from Kieth at Rag & Bone Brown. And I haven't used it yet, so I can't say it's excellent, but I've gone with his recommendation because everything else he says is pretty spot on, so why would this not be? I've also put like he did, I've put another gauge onto the gun itself so I can make sure that the pressure coming out of here is exactly what I need for any particular spray environment that I want to get into. So again, it was a matter of a better tool. Now, the Wagner 4000 fine sprayer, you're talking of upwards of £700. So how does all of this compare in cost? And cost at the end of the day is important to us all woodworkers. We know this is an expensive game. We know that we have to take our time and build up our tools and all of those good things. But if you can save money, here's a really good place to start. Before we go into the costs involved in setting yourself up with a compressor and perhaps the tools that you need, now if you've been here before, you know I've never done this, and if you haven't been here before, bear with me for a second. I'm new to YouTubing and I want the channel to grow. So apparently, by asking you to subscribe, like, comment, are all good things for the channel. Apparently they help it. I don't understand how or why, but that's the criteria of YouTube. So if you could do those things, I'd be very, very grateful. Now on to costs. I've actually wrote them down because I've got a memory like a sieve. Now, I'm just going to say about really, not the air blowers as such, because I couldn't really find an alternative for that, but just looking at the paint spraying and the pneumatic tools, for want of a better description. On this, let's go through them. The gun, for the nail gun, okay, I've only got the 18 gauge at the moment. It cost me £70. The spraying unit at Spray Guns Direct, I think it was that company anyway. I'll put a little piece across here now with the web address. But I spent a total of £173 there. On Amazon, I spent £275 on the compressor itself. And the little blowgun, that was £10, £9.99. And the total for that was £528. Now, for a nail gun, you're talking of, on an electronic version of a nail gun, you're talking of upwards of £250 plus batteries. And then for the paint spray, if you're going to get a decent sprayer like the Wagner 4000, and I'm sure it's a wonderful machine, by the way, but that's £700 plus batteries. So already you're talking £950 for just the two tools. Okay, whereas I can add pin nailers, and I'll still be well below what I would spend the other route. So from a cost perspective, I think it's a no-brainer, in all honesty. As I said, if you're out on the streets and you're going up roofs and things, it might not be the tool for you. I understand that. But if you're in a workshop environment, I genuinely don't think it can be beaten. Now, I had an added advantage. Out of the £528, what actually came out of my wallet was a big fat zero. And no, I'm not sponsored. No, they haven't been gifted. They were purchased, but tomorrow is my birthday and my good lady is an absolute marvel. So that's me almost done. But before you go, I've looked at the package today, really, and as it's obvious, it's all fairly new. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how good these particular tools are, but I will in the future. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a review once I've used the tools in anger and on the battlefield, so to speak. And once I've done that and I'm happy with them and I'm happy with the tools, then I'll review them, or not happy, as the case may be. I'm also going to be doing a little series on spray painting and spray finishing. It's something that I've been doing for years, so I think I've got a bit of experience to share with you there. Another good reason for you to subscribe. I'm pushing the subscribe today, and I shouldn't really. I've never done it before, as I said, but you know, needs must. And I also said that I want this channel to grow, so please leave comments about things that you do want to know about and videos that you think I should make, and I'd be more than happy to try and fit those in. I've got a whole list of videos ready to come and ready in the can. Now, one last word before I'm going to put a couple of bloopers at the end of this as well for your enjoyment. But before I go, just remember, pneumatic tools, like power tools, do follow all the safety precautions. I got told off this week by somebody that I do respect. Loz, you know who you are. And he made a very good point about people losing fingers, falling off ladders, etc., etc., and how important health and safety is. Let's take a little look at the bloopers. My name is Nick, this is Mokuzai Design, and I'll see you in the next video. Tools and their electronic versions. And so the thumbnail said, the first tool is the simplest of the lot, and the first tool is the simplest of the lot, and I don't think there's really an electronic counterpart. Or for a start, I think that